Angles formed by tangents and secants. For number 1, angle formed by two secants intersecting outside the circle. So if you will look at the figure, there are two secant lines. We have line EC and line TN. And the two secant lines intersect outside the circle. So dahil outside the circle, may nabuong angle in the exterior circle. For number 2, angle formed by a secant and a tangent intersecting on the circle. If you will look at the figure, there are two lines. We have line AR, which is a secant line, and line CR, which is a tangent line. If you will notice, the two lines intersect on the circle. And with the two lines, we have formed angle ARC. For number 3, angle formed by two tangents. So in the figure, we have circle P, and there are two lines, line AN and line EN. And the two lines are both tangent lines. And the two tangents intersect outside the circle. For this an exterior angle, angle ANE. For number 4, angle formed by a tangent and secant that intersect in the exterior of the circle. In the figure, we have circle A with a tangent line EN and a secant line GL which intersect at point N. So they intersect in the exterior or outside the circle. So there is an angle formed which is angle GNE. For number 5, angle formed by two secants that intersect in the interior of the circle. In the figure, we have circle I with two secant lines, line ER and line PN. If you will notice, the two secant lines intersect in the interior of the circle. So we have two angles in the interior, which is angle EAN, angle TAR. Theorems on angles formed by tangents. Theorem number 1. 2-secant exterior theorem. If two secants intersect in the exterior of a circle, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the positive difference of the measure of the intercepted arcs. So in the figure, we have two secant lines, line BI and line OE. The two secant lines intersect at point B. So the measure of angle B is equal to 1/2 times the difference between the measure of arc VO and arc IE. So for example, if the measure of arc VO and the measure of arc IE is 35, so what is the measure of angle D? So measure of angle D is equal to 1/2 times the quantity 95 minus 35. So 95 is the measure of arc VO and 35 is the measure of arc IE. So para siguradong ang sagot, yung mas malaking arc ang mauuna. Yung malaking arc minus yung maliit na arc. So 95 minus 35 equals 60. And 1/2 of 60 is equal to 30. So the measure of angle D is equal to 30. Theorem number 2. Secant and tangent on circle theorem. If a secant and tangent intersect at the point of tangency, then the measure of each angle formed is 1/2 the measure. So if you will look at the figure, so we have a secant line which is line AI and a tangent line which is line IN that intersect at the point of tangency which is point I. So the measure of angle AIN is equal to 1/2 the measure of arc AI. If the measure of arc ACI is equal to 206 angle AIN. So the measure of angle AIN is equal to 1/2 times 260. So 1/2 times 260 is equal to 130. So the measure of angle AIN is equal to 130 degrees. Theorem number 3. Two tangents. If two tangents intersect in the exterior of, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the positive difference of the measures of the intercepted arc. In the figure, we have circle P with two AN and line EN, wherein the two tangent lines intersect at point N. So the measure of angle N is equal to 1/2 times the difference between the measure of arc AGE and the measure of arc AE. So katulad kanina, para positive ang difference, yung mas malaking arc o yung major arc minus sa mas maliit na arc o minor arc. For all, the measure of arc AGE is 260 degrees. Therefore, the remaining arc is 100 degrees. So, what will be the measure of angle N? So, angle N is equal to 1/2 times the quantity 260 minus 100. Which is the measure of arc AE, which is 260, and measure of arc AE, which is 100. So 260 minus 100 is 160. The measure of angle N is equal to 1/2 times 160. And 1/2 times 160 is equal to 80. Therefore, the measure of angle N is equal to 80. Theorem number 4. Secant and tangent theorem. If a secant and a tangent intersect in the exterior of a circle, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the positive difference of the measure of the intercepted arcs. So in the figure, we have tangent line EN and secant line GL. If you will notice, the two lines intersect at point N. And there is an angle outside the circle. So what will be the measure of angle N? The measure of angle N is equal to 1/2 times the difference between arcs, measure of arc GSE, and measure of arc EL. So, for example, the measure of arc GSE is 190 degrees and the measure of arc EL is 80 degrees. So, what will be the measure of angle N? Measure of angle N is equal to 1/2 times quantity 190 minus 80. 190 minus 80 is equal to 110. And 1/2 of 110 is equal to 55. So the measure of angle N is equal to 55. So kung mapapansin nyo, similar yung long theorems. Kapag ang angle ay o exterior ng circle, laging ima-minus yung mas malaking arc minus dun sa mas maliit na arc. Theorem number 5. 2 seconds interior theorem. If 2 seconds intersect and then the measure of an angle formed is 1/2 the sum of the measure of the arcs intersected by the angle and its vertical angle. So this time, interior ng circle. So in the figure, we have 2 seconds, line ER, and line PN. The 2 second lines intersect at point O. So we have two interior angles. We have angle EON and angle POR. So what will be the measure of L? So the measure of angle EON is equal to 1/2 times the sum of the two arcs. So measure of arc EN and measure of arc RP. So dahil yung dalawang angles, yung angle EON at angle POR ay vertical angle, so ibig sabihin pa ng measure. So for example, the measure is 75 and the measure of RTR is 65. So what will be the measure of angle EON? So the measure of angle EON is equal to 1/2 times the quantity 75 plus 65. 75 plus 65 is equal to 140. And 1/2 of 140 is equal to 7. So the measure of angle EON is equal to the same with the measure of angle POR. It is also equal to 70. More examples applying the theorems on angles formed by tangent and secant. For number 1, if the measure of arc PAY is equal to 220, what is the measure of angle PPY? So look at the figure. We have a tangent line and a secant line. So dahil ang angle ay within the circle, so ibig sabihin, kukunin lang ang 1/2 ng measure ng arc. So yung theorem number 2. So angle PPY is equal to 1/2 the measure of arc PAY. So the measure of angle PPY is equal to 1/2 times 220. and 1/2 of 220 is equal to 110. So the measure of angle TPY is equal to 110. Example number 2. If the measure RT is 200 and the measure of RTS is equal to 75, what is the measure of angle I? So if you will look at the figure, we have a tangent line TI and a secant line CS. The two lines intersect outside the circle and we have angle I. So how to get the measure of angle I? So the angle I will be 1/2 times the difference of the measure of arc TKC and measure of arc TS. So the measure of angle I is equal to 1/2 times the quantity 200 minus 75 because the measure of angle TKC is 200 and the measure of RTS is 75. 200 minus 75 is equal to 125. So the measure of angle I is 1/2 times 125. So the final answer will be 62.5. So the measure of angle I is equal to 62.5. Example number 3. If the measure of arc MP is 105 and the measure of arc NK is 25, what is the measure of angle L? So look at the figure, we have two secant lines, line MN and line PK. And the two secant lines intersect outside the circle and the point of intersection is L. So we have an exterior angle which is angle L. So to get the measure of angle L, the measure of angle L is equal to 1/2 times the difference of arc MP and arc NK. So the measure of angle L is equal to 1/2 times the quantity 105 minus 25 because the measure of arc MP is 105 and the measure of arc NK is 25. So 105 minus 25 is equal to 80. So 1/2 of 80 is equal to 40. The measure of angle L is equal to 40. Example number 4. What is the measure of angle S when the measure of arc TOP is 240 and the measure of arc TP is 120? So if you will look at the figure, there are two tangent lines, line ST and line SP. So to get the measure of angle S, so this is equal to 1/2 times the difference between the measure of arc TOP and the measure of TP. The measure of angle S is equal to 1/2 the quantity 240 minus 120 because the measure of our TOP is 240 and the measure of our TP is 120. So 240 minus 120 is equal to 120. And 1/2 of 120 is equal to 60. So the measure of angle S is equal to 60. Example 5. What is the measure of angle E given that the measure of arc RE is equal to 75 and the measure of arc NS is equal to 165? If you will look at the figure, the two lines are both secant lines, so line RS and line EN, which intersect inside the circle or in the interior at point O. So katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, kapag ang angle ay nasa labas, laging minus. Kapag ang angle ay nasa loob, yan ay magiging plus. So ang gagawin lang, kukunin yung 1/2 tapos ia-add yung measure ng dalawang arcs. Measure angle ROE is equal to 1/2 times the sum of the measure of arc RE and arc NS. So the measure of angle ROE is equal to 1/2 times the quantity 75 plus 165. Because the measure of arc RE is 75 and the measure of arc NS is 165. 75 plus 165 is 240. And 1/2 of 240 is equal to 120. So the measure is 120. External secant segments. An external secant segment is the part of a secant segment that is outside the circle. For the illustration, in the figure, line segment ER and line segment TR are secant segments. Segment XR and segment NR are external secant segments. So, dahil sila ay part nung segment pero external, kaya sila tinawag na external secant segments. Theorems on secant segments, tangent segments, and external. Number 1. The segments for secants power theorem. If two secant segments are drawn to a circle from an exterior point, then the product of the length of one secant segment and its external secant segment is equal to the product of the lengths of the other secant segment and its external secant segment. So in the figure for the illustration, we have segment PW and RW, which are the secant segment, and segment OW and EW as the external secant segments. So if the measure of segment PW is 9, OW equals 4, RW equals 8, so what will be the measure of EW? So EW times OW equals RW times EW. So para lang ratio and proportion. So substitute 9 times 4 is equal to 8 times EW. So 9 times 4 equals 36. Then 8 times EW is 8 EW. So to solve for EW, divide 36 by 8. So 30 is equal to 4.5. EW is equal to 4.5. Number 2. The tangent secant segments power theorem. If a tangent segment and a secant segment are drawn to a circle from an exterior point, then the square of the length of the tangent segment is equal to the product of the lengths of the secant segment and its external secant segment. For the illustration, in the figure, segment RU is the tangent segment, segment SU is a secant segment, and segment QU is the external secant segment. If segment RU is 6, segment QU is 3, find SU. So, naka-square daw yung tangent. So, RU squared is equal to SU times QU. So, squared ng tangent ay equal dun sa product ng secant segment at exterior secant segment. So, 6 yung RU, so 6 squared, which is 36 SU times 3. So, SU times 3 is 3U. So, 36 equals 3SU. So, to solve for SU, divide 36 by 3, which is equal to 12. So, the measure of the secant segment SU is equal to 12. Examples applying the theorems. For number 1, what is the length of segment SE when BE equals 3.5 and PE equals 5? So if you will look at the figure, so we have one tangent segment and one secant segment. So gagamitin natin yung theorem number 2. So BE squared, so yun yung tangent, is equal to PE times SE. So substitute, we have 3.5 squared is equal to 5 times SE because the measure and the measure of PE equals 5. So 3.5 squared is equal to 12.5. Then 5 times SE equals 5 SE. So to solve for the measure of SE, divide 12.5 by 5. So the answer is 2.45 equals SE. For the last example, example number 2, if the measure of HA equals 9, CA equals 5, and PA equals 10, what is the length of EA? So that is 2 secant segment, which is the first theorem. So like ratio and proportion. So TA times EA equals HA times CA. Substitute TA equals 10 times EA equals H9 and CA equals 5. So 10 times A is 10 EA. So that is equal to 9 times which is 45. So to solve for EA, divide 45 by 10. So EA is equal to 4.5. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something today. Goodbye.